Good morning, girls. We'll start with microprocessors, its architecture and applications. Let's start with the definition of a microprocessor. It's a programmable device that takes in numbers, performs on them arithmetic or logical operations according to the program stored in the memory, and then produces other numbers as a result. This is the definition of a microprocessor. What it takes in is the data that the microprocessor manipulates. It must come from somewhere. Where should the data come from? It comes from what is called as input devices. And these devices bring in data into the system from the outside world. And what are these devices? They are keyboard, mouse, switches and the like. If that is the thing, what is the architecture of a microprocessor? It's a programmable digital device. It consists of flip-flops, registers and a timing element. And it is built in with a set of instructions, communicates with the peripherals. What are the peripherals? It can be input device, output device, memory or any other devices. And it also manipulates the data. And all this process is done, manipulation and data is called as the architecture. Then what are the functions of a microprocessor? The various functions are classified into three categories. They are microprocessor initiated operations, internal data operations, peripheral or externally initiated operations. Let us now look into each of them in more detail. The first one being the microprocessor initiated operations, and for this what you require is the organization of the bus. The MPE performs primarily four operations as a part of communication between microprocessor unit and peripheral devices. They are memory read, memory write, IO read and IO write. Memory read refers to reading the data and instruction from the memory. Memory write refers to writing the data or instruction into the memory. IO read refers to accepting the data from the input devices. IO write, writing the data to the output devices. All these four categories fall into the category known as processor initiated operations. Then you have a bus organization that is required to perform these operations. To communicate with peripherals, the microprocessor unit needs to perform these three things. First, it has to identify the peripheral or the memory location with its address. Then, transfer the binary information or data or instruction. Then when you are doing this, some information can be transferred fast, some information or the data can be transferred at a slow pace. What should the processor do? It should provide appropriate timing and synchronization signals between the various data which is very fast, the data which is very slow. It has to coordinate and synchronize. So the microprocessor unit, hitherto referred to as MPU, performs these functions using address bus, data bus and a control bus. By the way, a bus is a set of connecting wires which is used for transmission of data to and from the microprocessors among the various peripherals. Therefore, this microprocessor has three different types of buses known as the data bus, the address bus and the control bus. The three put together is referred to as the system bus. So in this picture, we can see the different buses which are organized. You have a microprocessor unit onto the left. That is your microprocessor unit. And you have address bus, data bus and a control bus here. The address bus, as you can see, it is shown with only an arrow in one direction, and hence it is referred to as a unidirectional bus. The data bus is referred to as a bidirectional data bus because the arrow, as you can see, is headed on both sides. You can see the arrow here, that's on both sides. It takes the data from the microprocessor, sends to the outside world, and it also takes in the information from the outside world, sends it to the microprocessing unit. It has a memory. The information can be accessed from the memory of the microprocessor, communicated to the different devices. You have an input device. The information is input to the microprocessor from the various input devices. And to provide a proper timing and control synchronization signals, we have what is known as a control bus. This control bus, as we already discussed, it provides synchronization among the various devices. Now let us see what this address bus and the data bus that we are talking about. Why do we need an address bus? We need an address bus to perform the function, that is the first one, as we discussed in the microprocessor initiated operations, that is to identify a peripheral or a memory location. For this, you are provided with a group of 16 lines designated by A0 to A15. And these 16 lines can address 2 to the power 16, that is 64,536 memory locations. In microprocessor architecture, when you have 2 lines, you can access 2 to the power 2, that is 4 locations. If you have 3 lines, you can access 8 different memory locations. Generally, the formula is, it can be expressed as 2 to the power n, where n refers to the number of lines. Since this microprocessor 8085 that we are talking about has 16 lines, it can access up to 64,536 lines. And as you know, 2 to the power 10 is equal to 1024, is referred to as 1 kilobyte of memory. Then 2 power 16 can be expressed as 2 power 6 into 2 power 10, which refers to 64 kilobytes of memory. And that means when you are using an 8085 microprocessor, these many 64 kilobytes of memory is allocated for the user. And another characteristic feature of this address bus is that it is unidirectional, meaning that it only flows from NPU to peripheral. Then we have a data bus. A data bus uses this bus, microprocessor unit uses this bus to perform the second function, that is transferring binary information. If you have to send the data over these buses, you have what is known as a data bus. Data can be sometimes interoperable. It can be used as a data or as information. And it consists, all these buses are, as I told already, there are a group of lines. So data bus is consisting of 8 lines and it is bidirectional as it is seen here. That means it takes in the information from the microprocessor unit to peripheral or memory devices in both the directions. It's a to-and flow. And the data range is from 0, since it's 8 lines, it can access only 255.0 to 255. And when you express this in hexadecimal notation, it is from 00 to FF. These many data lines are possible. Then we have what is known as a control bus. What is a control bus? It, as I already told you, this is giving you this synchronization signals. So till now what we discussed are these are microprocessor initiated operations. Next we are going in for internal data operations. The internal data operations, the internal architecture of 8085 microprocessor determines how and what operation can be performed with the data. How is the operation performed and how is it done on the data. What it does is, it stores 8 bits of data, it performs arithmetic and logical operations, it tests for the condition, it sequences the execution of instruction. We will come to this little later. Storing 8-bit data, you know that when you are doing any operation, there should be a way of storing the data. So it is storing the data, and storing the data is not enough. You have to perform, the microprocessor unit has to perform some arithmetic and logical operations based on that. So it performs the second function. Then when arithmetic and logical operations are being performed, there is a possibility of a 0 being the result, or if you are subtracting 2 numbers, there is a possibility of carry being sent, or there is another possibility of a positive number or a negative number. So you can test for the condition. So that is the third one. Then sequencing the execution of an instruction. Microprocessor should have an idea what is the next instruction that has to be fetched and from where it has to be fetched. there should be some controller or there should be a sequencer. That is the next one, that is sequencing the execution of instruction. Next instruction what has to be fetched from where. Then store the data temporarily during execution in the defined read-write memory locations or the stack. These are all the operations that are performed by the processor internally, and hence the name internal data operations. To perform all these operations, microprocessor requires the programming model, which includes, what does this include? 6 registers, 1 accumulator, and 1 flag register. In addition to this, it also has 2 registers, which are 16-bit long. They are called stack pointer and the program counter. This is the programming model that we are talking about. What is accumulator? On the right is your flag register, which gives the status of the flags. Then you have registers B, C, D, E, H, and then they are to be used either as singly, which stores 8 bits of information, or as a pair, which stores 16 bits of information. Then you have a stack pointer, which keeps stack of the instructions. Program counter, which sequences the execution of the program. You have double header array, that is known as a bidirectional data bus, unidirectional data bus. The last one is externally initiated operations. What are these externally initiated operations? They are referred to as, first one, INTR, refers to interrupt request. This is used as a general purpose interrupt. It is similar to interrupt signal of the 808A. So it is an input to the microprocessor by a peripheral device. It will request the microprocessor to send some information to it, and which will be acknowledged by the microprocessor by a signal called INTA. It is an interrupt acknowledged signal. It's an output from the microprocessor and an input to the interrupt process. As you can see, there is a bar over it indicating that it is an active low like the signal. In addition to that, we also have interrupts referred to as restart interrupts, which are called hardware interrupts. We also have software interrupts, which we'll cover a little later. These are called hardware interrupts. They are designated by RST 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5. They transfer the program control to a specified memory location. What is the specified memory location? I'll give you an example. If you are reading the novel and if you receive a telephone call, normally what we do is we type what, attend to the telephone call and come back to the pre-marked page and continue reading. If you put a footnote page, then you will come back to that particular page and continue reading. And if you don't do that, you have the tendency to either go back or ahead, keep searching until you find the page from where you left. Whereas these interrupts are similar to putting a foot mark and coming back to that and start executing the program from where it was left. So we will come to this later when we discuss about interrupts. Then we have a trap. Supposing there is some emergency situation and that situation has to be communicated to the microprocessor, it will be connected to an interrupt referred to as a trap, which is something which is known as of highest priority. So when a microprocessor is performing any function, any program, and if it sees this signal, it will immediately suspend what it was doing, attend to this signal and comes back. Therefore, there are some interrupts which are having higher priority and some interrupts which are having lower priority. Trap is one which is having the highest priority. Then you have hold acknowledge. This is mainly for relinquishing the buses of the microprocessor to an output data. So when you are using large transfer of data between two devices like CDs to disks and so on, where you want the entire time to be allocated only for the data transfer. For example, if you are doing some installation of any software, during that time, you will get a prompt saying that you are not supposed to disturb the system for any other operation until this installation is complete. For such operations, what we do is the buses of the microprocessor are held and they are kept in waiting until the data transfer is complete. Once the data transfer is complete, the buses will further be used for the other purpose. So they are called hold signals. Then the ready. This is used to delay the microprocessor cycle. So when the signal goes through, microprocessor waits for an integral number of clock cycles until it goes through. This is a way of communication between processor and reference. So far, this is what we have done about the architecture.